The Bureau du Québec, I'm just not sure who's going to make the presentation.
Je vais faire la présentation.
I will give the presentation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Vice Chairs, and I'll give everyone time to listen for their earpieces. Dear committee members, my name is Paul Mathieu Grandin. I am the president of the Quebec Bar Association. I'm accompanied by Pascal Levesque, who is the president of the Criminal Law Association, and Luc Hervé Thibodeau, who's the president of the Consumer Protection Committee. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for allowing us to share with you our position on the issue of marijuana legalization and its framework in Canada. Generally, and without taking a position on the use of cannabis, the bar welcomes this initiative for the distribution, and we would like to, however, speak about a number of major issues that will be highlighted with respect to public safety. We need to highlight the awareness raising and education initiatives which are very important, particularly for youth, to allow the public to make enlightened decisions. It is essential to allocate funds to research in a variety of domains, particularly health, sociology, but also law. We need to remember that the young people who are the ones who consume the most cannabis in Canada, followed by adolescents aged 14 to 19, and they should be targeted for prevention activities. To speak about the issues of applicable to minors, I will give the floor to my colleague, Mr. Levesque. Thank you. The Cannabis Act criminalizes cannabis possession more strictly for minors than it does for majors by imposing a limit of 5 grams and less for any cannabis possession by a minor, in contrast to 30 grams and less of cannabis for people 18 years and older. In this respect, the Quebec Bar reminds you of the importance of not criminalizing minors for behaviors that are allowed among adults. You must remember that this is a particularly vulnerable population which must be sufficiently protected. In this respect, let's remember that the youth criminal justice system is different from the one from adults. It is based on the principle of lower moral blameworthiness principle. It needs to focus on youth reintegration and rehabilitation. And we also must avoid submitting them to serious consequences that might result in their criminalization. We recommend that you decriminalize possession of under 30 grams of cannabis for 50 to 30 grams among youth, and to plan a provincial offense for any possession of over 5 grams. A fine is the most commonly used tool in this case, and this would avoid imprisonment. The ticketable offense regime set out in the Cannabis Act does not apply to minors. This plan refers rather to the Youth Criminal Justice Act. So in the bill, the plan sets out that people 18 and older committing certain offenses could be pursued by a summons at the discretion of the peace officer. Youth are exposed to the regular criminal process via the youth criminal justice system. They are a particularly vulnerable population. We feel that awareness raising, education, and prevention are the best means to eradicate cannabis consumption among youth. We must not resort to the criminal justice system to compensate for an inadequate prevention and education system. Concerning the ticketable offense regime, the bill sets out the possibility for a peace officer in certain cases to impose a ticketable offense to someone who has committed an offense, payment of the ticketable offense would entail an addition to their legal file. It's not a criminal record, it's a legal file in the bill. However, the notion of legal file is not defined in the Act. We are wondering who is responsible for this file. When is it created? What information does it include? When would the information be destroyed? Who would have access to this file? What use would this information be subject to? Furthermore, there would need to be a sanction regime for any infractions with respect to classification and use requirements for this file. I would now give the floor to Mr. Thibodeau, who will speak to you about the issues related to packaging standards set out in the Cannabis Act and the sale of cannabis by the provinces.
For the Quebec bar, that strict labeling rules will be necessary to reach the goals. There are three main goals of information prevention, and also in many cases, and especially in the cases of young people, either below 18 or below 25, of dissuasion. And these strict labeling rules must be set up to govern the legal framework related to cannabis, just as is being done with alcohol, just as it is being done with tobacco. And to this extent, C45 provides right now for neutral packaging what we can identify as being as a neutral packaging. But there are not too many details that are being provided at this point to inform us on what the specific conditions will be for marketing and commercializations of cannabis. We feel that there is a need for strict national standards that must be established by the federal government, probably either by amending C45, probably by way of bylaws and regulation that will render or that will provide us with, again, with a similar framework as we're seeing right now with the tobacco legislations. Warnings, also descriptions of contents, and we see they are already at 139.0 and 139K provisions in the Act that provides for the establishment of regulations with respect to the strength of the cannabis that will be put on the market. There is nothing right now concerning comestible cannabis, either ingestible food or beverages. And there is not much presently, well, the Act, or the bill right now acknowledges the provincial legislatures to regulate on distribution and sale of cannabis, but the list being provided at Section 69 of the bill right now is, in our opinion, not exhaustive enough and not detailed enough to give clear indications to the provinces with respect to the framework that must surround the commercialization of cannabis. And this can lead to some confusion, whereas what the provinces must respect when they will or when they presently are tabling on bills of laws governing the commercialization and marketing of cannabis. All this in a context, of course, of protecting the consumers and also protecting the producers. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. All right.